morning, everybody. It's 10 o'clock, so let's go ahead and get started. So, Joelle, you wanna?
Yeah, we are excited you're here today to learn more information about when you're ready to sell your home and top 10 mistakes to avoid when selling your home.
Okay. So I've been a real estate professional for almost 20 years, and I've seen a lot of the mistakes we're going to talk about today over and over. The good news is that because even though we have made some of those mistakes ourselves, we've learned how to prevent them, and in some cases, the mistake is a result of a lack of education on part of the client, but sometimes it may be due to the real estate as well and their knowledge and experience. That's why it's so important when interviewing a potential realtor to hire. You find out their level of experience, their philosophy on how to price, market, their experience in selling homes, and also in your specific area, okay? Most of you are probably from St. Charles County, City of St. Charles, Winsville, St. Peters, so you're gonna wanna hire an agent that specifically, works in that area, okay? So, in front of you is a handout with the 10 mistakes we've listed. We'll go through and talk about each one. Please let me know if you have any questions. I mean, this can be certainly interactive. So let's turn to your neighbor and say, we're going to learn something today.
We're gonna learn something today.
Turn back and say, and it's about time.
That's smart every day.
Okay, all right. So the slide up here, this is mistake number 1, setting an unsubstantiated asking price, okay? And this is a graphic that is fairly common. You can find it like on the National Association of Realtors and other places. And it's talking about the market value, percentage of buyers that you can attract, and in relation to the asking price. When the list price really depends on the current supply and demand and market conditions. A house should be priced at fair market value. Okay, so what's fair market value? Fair market value is what a ready, willing, and able buyer is willing to pay for the home. How do you know that until you try, right? Kind of hard. So we set a listing price based on the history of comparable sales in your immediate area that have successfully sold. We also look at what failed to sell, so we don't want to make that same mistake again. So the center line on here represents market value, and as you move up above the market value, you attract much smaller percentage of prospective buyers, greatly reducing your chances of a sale. Conversely, as you move below market value, you attract a much larger percentage of potential buyers. Okay. Our current market has been a strong seller's market. Most of you probably listen to the news, read the paper, know that it has been a very good real estate market, okay? It has changed a little bit in our area. And when you listen to the national news, it's not specific to our area. It's just kind of a general blend. We're not quite as affected in the Midwest as the East and West coasts are. Those are kind of the extremes. And then that kind of works its way in to the middle of the states. So we're a little bit more protected from the extremes that you're seeing in some other markets. So although they report national things, getting local information is very important. It's very specific in regards to real estate and selling a home. The idea on pricing a home is we do want to create interest by pricing it to sell, okay? Active buyers are smart. They've done their homework. They've already looked. They're shopping online in the beginning. They've looked at, quite a few homes. And before they make an offer, they'll know if the house is overpriced. If it's overpriced, chances are they're not even gonna come and look at your house. So they'll say, I like that house, but it really seems overpriced, so I'm just gonna sit back and wait, see if the price comes down. On the flip side, a seller might say, well, if somebody really wants it, they'll just make an offer. That's not how it works, okay? So we wanna get the price at an appropriate level to begin with. So buyers have a general overview of the market, and they're comparing your property against the competition. When you overprice your home initially, what do? You help sell other homes because they're comparing your home to other homes, okay? So if they say, well, I can get this over here versus this home at this price, why wouldn't I just try to negotiate and buy on this house that already seems to be at a fair price, okay? So that's when we talk about overpricing, you just help sell other people's homes. Paper just stuck together here. So they won't even come look at it. Most of the buyers are on the internet searching for properties. Does anybody ever go on looking at properties on any of the realtor sites or realtor.com, Zillow? Nope, okay, Redfin, that's another one. Well, most buyers are, so that's where they start their search, and they're gaining a lot of information, and there is a lot of public information that buyers can get to. So they know how much you paid for the house, when you purchased it, things of that nature, and they're ranking the properties, you know. Well, this one has this, but it doesn't have that, I'm not interested in that one, or this one looks great because it has X, Y, and Z, and that seems like a good price for that. So when we wanna talk about as-is versus updated or renovating, when pricing a home, not only are we looking at what comparable homes have sold for in your area, we're also looking at specific updates you've made to the home that increase the value. So things like granite or quartz countertops, a renovated master bathroom, those are things that can increase the value. If you wanna sell your home as is, we need a price that reflects the condition of the home. We'll go into as-is in depth a little bit further, but talking about strategic pricing, it's called hardline pricing. So we want to, most buyers will search in even increments, okay? They're gonna search in, when they go online, the different sites ask for, which price range, top and bottom, okay? People don't put in, 200 to 217, okay? They're gonna go 200 to 225, something along that nature. So there is some strategic planning and thought process about, if we should, where we should price it, and should it be at one of those very common, hardline pricing gaps there, okay? Also, having a plan, if this is the price, and what would be the next step? If that, for some reason, the market rejects it, you're not able to get the price that you're asking for, then thinking about, well, what would be the next logical price adjustment, okay? So that should also be taken into consideration. So example, I had a client recently that had a home in Chesterfield, and they wanted to price their home at, $439,000, actually it was $539,900. And I said that, I'm sorry, that's too high, that is not going to fly. So I said, I understand you wanna get money back from some of the improvements that you did, but if we go at $525, then we don't have to adjust it too drastically much if that doesn't work, because we already missed the mark in the beginning. And that is what happened. We ended up going at 525, and we ended up having to adjust it from there, okay? And on another side note, they wanted to go higher than was recommended because they opted to make some improvements on the home that I did not recommend them to do, okay? So then they felt like, well, we spent the extra money to do some new flooring, to put in granite counters, do a new backsplash in the kitchen. So therefore, in order to justify that, we wanna ask for more for the house, okay? It also cost them almost 2 months of time. The end result was that had they listed their home when it was supposed to go on the market and the market was super hot, and I knew that they were gonna get maximum money without having to do anything in their home, they opted to do these improvements, and it kind of backfired, okay? They still got a good price for the home, and they're ultimately happy with it, but we could've got it done sooner for them, which would have been better for them, and we also would have gotten, we would have gotten closer to the mark in the beginning and maybe even gotten a little bit higher price on the home, and better terms for the seller. So, just an example of overpricing a home. You as the seller ultimately make the decision, okay? When talking to an agent, they should be giving you good factual information, and talking to you about the pros and cons of pricing it at different points, okay? So you're the decision maker, you're in control, okay? An agent does have the right to say, I don't want to list the price at the house at that price, and therefore maybe it's not best for us to work together. They've got that right to do that, okay? Most of the time what happens is you as a decision maker say, no, I'm firm, I think it really should be this price, and we say, okay, we'll try it, okay? And see what happens, okay? And we'll talk about what happens, in a little bit. So, Joelle.
Do you wanna talk about the appraisals?
Appraisals. Relying on pre-sale appraisal for pricing, yes. So, I missed that part. A lot of people will say, well, I just had an appraisal done for a refinance, a year ago or 2 years ago. And surely whatever that was, it's gone up in value since then. And you really can't rely on a past appraisal. Most of the time, we as agents are able to give you a very good assessment of what your property will bring in the current market. If you want to hire an independent appraiser to come out and do a study of value on your home, you can certainly do that, okay? They will want to know the purpose of the appraisal. If you're refinancing, they are more generous with value on a refinance than they are in regards to giving a loan to a new buyer, okay? So the purpose or intention of the appraisal needs to be known. So an appraisal for refinancing is not the same as an appraisal for purchase. A buyer, if they're getting financing, it is their lender that orders an appraisal. So you have no say-so. You can't say, I have one from a month ago, or, just use this. That won't work. They have to hire their own to do an independent study. Appraisers typically charge about $400 to $600 in our area for an appraisal. What else do I want to point out? So sometimes if a property is so unique, or it's remote location, rural, there can be times where agents will say, I think it's in our best interest to go ahead and have an independent appraisal done. Because buyers can't, they have trouble figuring out what the value is. So it can help support the asking price of your home if there is an independent appraisal. But
Who pays for that?
if you, as the homeowner, want an independent appraisal done, that would be something before you go on the market, and you would pay for that as a homeowner. When you put your house up for sale, and the buyer puts an offer on your home, when the offer is accepted, then they have the right to do an appraisal, even if they're paying cash. If they're getting financing, they have to get an appraisal. The lender wants to make sure that the property has the value there in order for them to lend it. In that case, the buyer's paying for the appraisal. Make sense? Okay, alright. So, sorry, now we're gonna talk about failing to prepare for showings.
So, mistake number 3. First, let's talk about what showings are. So, a showing is a scheduled private appointment that a realtor brings buyers into your home to tour your home. So, clean, tidy, and decluttered is preferred. Once inside your home, one of the key factors that influences its appeal to buyers is that it's clean. That's how your home shows it's in its best condition. So, decluttered. Walk through your home and think less is more. It's important to start decluttering now, even before you get ready to put your house on the market, so that you're not overwhelmed by that process. I see some smiles. We have a downsizing made easy guide that we've talked about before. We have a copy of it. It can help walk you through those steps. If you're interested, just let one of us know afterwards and we can get you a copy of that. Most people find it easier to make decisions about their belongings when they know where they're moving to next, because they know how much space they're gonna have, and it's easier to make those decisions about what to take with them and what not. Common places to focus on first is your basement and also your garage, because typically you're moving to a single family home that maybe is maintenance free, so you're not gonna need your lawnmower or your leaf blower or the things that are in your basement. We currently have a client who was in this situation. She had lots of stuff and she loved all of her stuff, so she wasn't able to make decisions. But as soon as she found where she was moving to next, she hired an estate sale company, and she was willing to make those decisions to take with her what she knew she loved and used. Also depersonalize. So this is removing family photos that are on the wall, and putting away knickknacks and maybe collectibles. Depersonalizing is great because buyers are able to focus on your house and they're not distracted by the stuff in your house. An unoccupied home can also be easier to show. This is because it can be shown on short notice. People can stay as long as they need to, and you're not stuck in your car on the street corner with your dog waiting for them to finish with the tour. So that is a great option for a lot of seniors as well. Speaking of pets, pet odor can be a deterrent to potential buyers. I know a lot of people are pet lovers. I'm a pet lover. You're a pet lover, but there's some people who are not. And so if they walk into your home and there's a distinct odor that they can smell, that can be a turn off to buyers. As-is sales must be priced accordingly. So if a home, kind of like Stephanie was talking about, if a home is not priced correctly, people won't even come see it. And it's important when a listing is as is that that price reflects the condition of the home to get those showings in. So selling as is can mean a couple different things. So we just wanted to touch on those briefly. As is could mean you're not going to make any changes to the home prior to putting it on the market. So you could say, I don't want to take down wallpaper, I don't want to paint the walls, I don't want to replace any floors or carpeting or anything like that. So some people think it's just too much hassle, and their goal isn't making the most amount of money. And so that's not something that they're willing to do. And in a strong market like we're in now, this is a good option for seniors because they don't have to go through that hassle of making those changes. As is could also mean that you won't be making any repairs that the buyer typically requests. So in our current market, most buyers want the right to hire an independent inspector to come in and look at the house, and they want to reserve the right to terminate the contract based on the outcome of that inspection. So they may ask for small things to be fixed. What are some examples of things buyers typically ask to be fixed?
They
New
can be,
carpet,
sorry,
new carpet.
new
Yeah,
carpet.
carpet.
Typically, they don't ask for that, okay, anymore. They used to, okay? When it is a buyer's market, where the buyers hold the leverage, that's when they're gonna ask for things like that. Our market's been very strong, since the real estate crash. It's just strengthened over time. We still have a housing shortage, so sellers are typically have the leverage. Things that buyers typically request, would be things like maybe the roof is beyond the life. And some of it, their lender determines what they will accept in the condition of the home. So the agent needs to know what type of financing they anticipate a prospective buyer having to purchase the home. For example, I met with clients the other day. They have actually 2 homes to sell over in the Florissant area. So I did the research, I assumed and knew, but I wanted to be factual about it. So I got the facts and I said, okay, on this first home we're listing, just to let you know, the last 10 sales around this home, 6 of the 10 were government-backed loans, okay? What does that mean? That means they're gonna check the roof. If it's old, you're gonna end up having to replace it in order for that transaction to go through. So we talk about avoiding that. It probably makes sense to just go ahead and replace the roof now, and then we can market the home that has a brand new roof and maybe get more money. We should probably get more money and have a smoother transaction, okay? They used to ask for everything. We want you to caulk the tub. That's a maintenance thing, We want you to fix the broken blinds because they don't turn the right way. We're not seeing that. We haven't seen that in many years. It's usually very significant things. There's an active leak that they discover, okay? Something like that. There's something structural. Okay, so typically it's more high dollar items that buyers are asking for. They're kind of fighting to get their offer accepted, so they are willing to give up a lot of their rights. They're willing to limit. They'll say, we're gonna do inspections, but we're not gonna ask for anything that's over $1,000 per single item. Okay, that eliminates caulking the tub, right?
Mm.
The broken blind, so they know that you're not gonna, nitpick them if you're the seller.
And then lastly, as is could mean that you wanna walk away and leave everything in your home. So we actually have a client who the homeowner passed away 2 years ago, and the house has been sitting vacant since then. And it needs repairs, it needs updates, and the family just doesn't want to spend money on it. So they're choosing this as is option because that's what's best for their situation.
So the family came in, took what they wanted out of the house, and it will cost them money to have the home cleaned out. They are not in a position to necessarily pay for that, and they choose not to, even though, I as an agent gave them options and said, you will be best served by getting the house empty. They just, it's kind of an error situation, so there's multiple personalities involved in this decision making, but that's how they've decided to sell the home. We are selling it as is 100%. We're not doing anything. If you buy this house, you're responsible for cleaning it out. Whatever you find in the home, you find in the home.
You talking furniture and stuff?
Yes, sir.
Everything.
Clothing, food in the refrigerator.
Yeah,
2 years that the house has been sitting empty with disputing heirs on the property.
I'll be honest, if my wife goes before me, I don't want any of it. I don't know if it'd be easier to hire an estate seller to come in and sell everything that's in it, or
Mhm.
just furniture goes with the house.
Yeah,
And
I
then-
mean, there's a
and then-
number of different ways approaching it. In this particular situation, really, there's probably only one thing I saw in the house as a piece of furniture that anybody would be remotely interested in. I mean, it literally is kind of trash, okay? And that's okay. Houses sell like that, you know? They just wanna get it gone. They're tired of paying the taxes on it and fighting each other. So, we can do that. I've informed them of all their other options, and this is the option that they're going to, and that's perfectly fine. It's their home to decide what they wanna do with it.
Do you see a lot of that, where people just wanna leave the furniture and everything?
We see a lot of people thinking that selling their home as is their only option. And it's very common with us in the older population, okay? Not staying up to speed on market trends and what's going on, not getting honest information from people. And so a lot of people think, well, you know, my house is old, I haven't done any updating on it, I have, you know, green shade carpeting and pink counters. I just need to sell it to We Buy Ugly Houses and be done with it. And that's okay, if that's the way that you wanna go. But I think there's much better options, even if you wanna sell it that way, and that's putting it on the open market. You know, if you have a car, we probably all have had a vehicle that maybe we've personally owned and tried to sell it before. You know, you have an idea, you can do the research, what you think that it's worth. You might have a neighbor inquire about it, but if you're only talking to one person, you don't have any leverage, okay? They're gonna offer you whatever they wanna offer, and they can take advantage of the situation. So by putting a house even like this house that's sitting vacant for 2 years with literally junk and trash in it, the best option for those owners, if they don't choose not to do anything, is to put it on the open market, and let's get multiple people. If Ugly Houses wants to put in an offer, they can do that. But the people that are willing to pay the most amount of money for a house is the ones who want to make it their home. We have a housing shortage. People need homes.
Yeah, so you kind of talked about open market. What about selling it to your neighbor's kids? What would you say about that?
So, I had a couple examples about that. So one house that we're having an estate sale on this weekend, when you're in a subdivision, you know your neighbors a lot of times, or they see activity going on, they kind of, you know, think that maybe you're getting ready to sell your house, they start asking you, and this particular person, neighbor approached her, knew she was gonna be selling the house, and said, my kids are looking for a house. The house will be great for them. You know, what, can they get in to see it? You know, that they're gonna wanna buy it. Well, is she gonna wanna sell it to them? Is that really her best option to do that? She, being pretty business savvy, said, you know what? I have an agent that I've worked with for years. She's gonna be handling it. I'll give your information to her. She'll contact you. called her up. She never has called me back. Okay. Saw her in the subdivision waving, she never came, saw me putzing around over there, never came over and asked anything. So, was her kids really a ready, willing, and able buyer? Probably not.
Big question.
And maybe it was the price, and I said, I will call your neighbor. That's great that they have somebody that's interested. I will let them know the timeline. I will invite them to come see the home. Excuse me. But your goal is to get the most amount of money. You need this money to live on for the remainder of your years. Let's expose it to the
What is
greater
an
market.
estate sale?
Excuse me?
What's an estate?
sale?
Can you answer that?
Yeah. So an estate sale is when a company comes in and they'll kind of do a consultation and let you know, yes, you have enough stuff for an estate sale, no you don't. And if you do, they'll come in, they'll price everything, and then they'll have a weekend sale, and then they'll advertise it, people will come in, they can buy whatever is there, and then whatever's left over, either you can have cleaned out, you can donate, sometimes they'll take care of cleaning it out for an extra cost, but it's just an easy way for seniors to either make some extra money or get rid of things that they don't necessarily need. Sometimes there's different estate sales that specialize in antiques or trying to think, art, different things like that. So it's important when you're thinking about an estate sale that you kind of look at what you have and call someone who specializes in that area.
So we actually specialize in working with seniors, and there are other agents that do. So we have good resources and know who might be the best estate sale company to handle particular items that you have. So in this regard, excuse me, I'm gonna step out and get water in a second.
So
We
it all
proposed different estate companies. We had them come in, I met with them and the seller, and they made a decision on who to hire.
So it all comes down to your goal. If you want to sell your house to your neighbor's kids, that's great. If your goal is a financial goal or a timeline goal, it's best to put your house on the open market to get the most amount of showings and interest. So, number 4, making unnecessary or inappropriate updates to your house. Stephanie kind of touched on this a little bit with our clients, but first consult with an agent before making updates or repairs. A realtor can direct you as to what updates and changes to make to your house if you need to make any. Many times people make changes and say, oh, I have to get my house to look good before the realtor comes. But don't do that. Mid-century modern right now is hot. And just because something is old doesn't necessarily mean that you need to get rid of it. So realtors should know based on the market what are most desirable and profitable updates and changes that you can make to your home. Also, partially remodeled is sometimes worse than not remodeled at all. Like we said, some updates are more desirable than others. Once you get started, sometimes it's hard to know where to stop because you start changing things and then the house isn't consistent. So sometimes it would be better to just let the buyer pick out what they want in their new home rather than you just guessing what's going to appeal to the vast majority of buyers. Carpet and paint can improve a home. If you're replacing the floors, laminate would probably be better than carpet, or a neutral paint color if you're painting would be better than a bright or a dark color. So these are all things that your realtor can help point you in the right direction. You good?
I think so.
Okay.
I hope so. All right, where are we at? Mistake number 5. I'll get there, hold on. So one of the other stories I had about selling to your neighbor's kids, these clients, we did open it up in a different scenario. they had a neighbor whose kids said they wanted to buy the house. We went on the open market. They had a fair shot at it. They did submit an offer, okay? It wasn't the highest and the best offer. The sellers opted to accept their offer, okay? Why? They said, we know these people, they're young, they're just starting out. We were helped when we were young too. We don't need every penny out of this house. We would love to see them get the house. Absolutely, it's your decision, it's your home. So, that's the way that one went. So it can go either way. But we did expose it to the greater market, and then they made that particular decision. All right. Mistake number 5, requiring the listing agent to show your house. In the real estate transactions in Missouri, we have listing agents and we have buyer's agents, okay? So typically that's how the transaction works. There's 2 different agents working together once there's an accepted offer. When you list your home, I hear a lot of times people saying, you know, years ago we had this agent who we used and we really weren't happy with them. And I of course want to know why, you know, what were they unhappy with? And they'll say, among other things, the number one thing that's in common is they never showed my house. They never showed my house. They expected the listing agent to be the one to show the house, okay? Some people want a listing agent to accompany anybody who shows the house. So the buyer's agent who's bringing buyers through. You know, that can be accommodated, okay? It's not always the greatest situation because then you're trying to coordinate a lot of different schedules to get everybody in there at one time, okay? So typically it is the agent that represents a buyer that will show your home when it's on the open market. As there's like 10,000 licensed agents in the area, okay? So I always tell my clients, you know, I could possibly bring a buyer that would be interested in your home, and I have people that say they would be interested. It's not gonna be serving you well because your goal is this. So the idea that I'm gonna bring you the highest and best offer with somebody that I also represent isn't necessarily probably gonna happen, okay? There's all these other agents out there that have qualified people looking to buy homes, okay? So they are the ones that typically set the appointment and show the home to their client. So we don't want to restrict showings, okay? We want to make it as easy as possible to accommodate the appointments even on short notice. So I don't know if any of you have seen these on houses before or sold a house before, and these have been around for, gosh, at least 10 years now. And I think they're getting ready to even upgrade these to newer technology. But this goes on typically your front door. Inside there's a compartment in here that the key is put in. And this operates off Bluetooth. We as agents have to be licensed and vetted and renewed and cross-checked in order to be given electronic access to those boxes, okay? So that is how your home can be kept secure, okay? And those can be programmed to not allow access before a certain time or after a certain time. So if you're looking to hire an agent and you want to ask about that, and you wanna restrict maybe, after 7 o'clock or something like that, those can be actually programmed to accommodate that. In general, most of the time, agents are looking to show properties, meaning make appointments to come see your home. Typically, 9 o'clock is the starting time. It's the ending time. It's maybe somebody can only, they're looking at 6 houses in a row. And your house is the 6th one they're gonna look at. And they're not expecting to even arrive to your home until, 8 o'clock at night. And that's getting on the later end of the spectrum. Of course, it's a little different when it's winter time. We don't have as much sunlight. We are showing properties in the dark. And there's not quite as much activity though. But you can operate your front door even with that on the knob. Doesn't restrict you from going in and out of the house. In showing your home, it's best that you're not present, okay? And I know it is a little bit of an odd feeling, knowing that you're having strangers come through your home and you not be there. But if you think about it, how would you feel if you're looking to invest quite a bit amount of money in making a purchase? It's gonna be your home. You wanna be able to check everything out. You wanna feel free to open closets and look in the cabinets, see how much space there is. It's a very uncomfortable situation for the buyer's agent or for prospective buyers to have the seller at the home. We do work around it, but in general, it's best that you plan on not being present for the showings. With our strong market that we've been having, we typically, when we put a house on the market, we strategically say we're gonna start showings on Friday, run it through the weekend, look at offers on Monday. My best plan for the seller is go away for the weekend. Let's plan it around you being gone, okay? You don't have to worry about making your bed every morning or cleaning up the dinner dishes because you're not gonna be there. And you don't have to worry about your pet either because your pet's with you, so your pet's safe when people come to see your home. And then the realtor that's showing, that represents the buyer, they already have a relationship with that buyer. They know what features are their hot buttons, so they can help sell your home. Again, it's just extremely difficult situation when you as a seller are at the home. Again, I know it is uncomfortable, but it is the best way to go with that.
So that brings us to mistake number 6, staying home for showings.
Oh, okay, sorry, I rolled right into that.
So as Stephanie said, it is uncomfortable if you're walking through the home and you see the seller sitting on the couch. That's not a fun situation to be in. But it can also hinder or negatively affect negotiations. So that buyer agent and the buyer are gonna be having active conversations as they walk through the house. And if you're there to overhear those conversations, those conversations might not happen at all, and then there might not be an offer. So it really, really is important that you're not home for those showings. Mistake number 7. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Mistake number 7, ignoring showing feedback. So feedback is important because we want to take quick action to adjust the price so your home isn't a stale listing and it sits on the market. So buyer feedback helps with staging, pricing, and competitive analysis. So there's a rule of thumb that we like to say, 10 days and no offers, or 10 showings and no offers. Whichever comes first typically equates to the property being overpriced. And I'll back up a little bit. Feedback, after a buyer's agent shows a home, they will be sent either an email, or the listing agent will call that buyer agent and say, hey, what did your clients think? What did they think about the price? What did they think about the condition? Was there any odors? Things like that. And so the buyer's agent's feedback is very important because they're showing lots of homes every day. And so they are aware of what's a good price, what's a good condition, if a house needs work. So the feedback is very important from those buyer's agents. And if there's no feedback, that's usually a bad thing, because they're just trying to be nice because they don't want to tell you if there is that pet or odor or whatever it might be. So if there's no feedback, that's telling us that the market is rejecting the home at its current price.
Is that only the agent's feedback, or does that include the buyer?
It should be,
The people that actually went through the house?
yeah, it should be both,
Okay.
okay, but it
They're talking to you,
actually,
they're telling you what the
it
conditions are.
actually is coming from the agent, but it should be the agent's feedback and their buyer's feedback, okay?
Includes the feedback from the buyers.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct,
I mean,
yeah.
you solicit, obviously, feedback from the buyer. The agent
Yes.
solicits feedback
Yes.
from the buyers, which you
Absolutely,
can agree with or not,
Right.
and then pass on.
right. So when we're acting as a buyer's agent, we're actively trying to find the as close a match as we can as to what our buyer client is looking for. So when we're showing homes, we're learning about what they're looking for, what their hot buttons are, and, helping find those properties, okay? So most of the time, you know, if they've been working with the buyer for a little bit of time, they have a good idea, you know, what they, and specifically will ask. I always ask, what did you think about this home? What did you like? What did you didn't like? Are you interested in the home? If you are, and it's not in its current condition, what are the changes you'd have to make? And let's talk about the costs associated with that. So there are some agents that flat out will not provide any feedback. And there are agents who will be very specific, and which I think is good, okay? They're helping. We provide the feedback to our clients, and sometimes, every once in a while, they could be offended by something, okay? For example, it smelled like a dog, okay? And we try to discuss these things before we list the home, but, you know, that can be, well, my house doesn't smell like a dog, and, you know, we take the dog out, and, you know, so on and so forth. You know, okay, all right, well, if we get that feedback again, then it's probably, maybe you know, kind of, we go nose blind, okay? But when people are very general, it's just not the right house for my buyers, you know? And there's nothing specific, that's really not extremely helpful, okay? We don't, as agents, I don't think we shouldn't totally rely on feedback that we're getting. We discuss with you, hey, let's just get the elephant out of the room, and this is the feedback we're gonna get. We're gonna get, your house is too close to the busy road. Okay, you know what? There's really nothing we can do about that. There's some things we could try. And I just sold one of those properties that backed up to the St. Peter's Parkway. And when she bought it, it didn't bother her, but we had talked about it. Now that she was going to sell it, I said, we're gonna be hearing it a lot. And there's not a darn thing we can do about it. We can't move the road, we can't move your house. What can we do? Well, we could play some soft music in the home, keep that on. You could run a fountain, you know, kind of, we don't have to make it so blatant. You know, we can try to soften the effect of it, okay? So, in that particular home, yeah, we did get that feedback. You know, house is gorgeous, loved everything about it, would buy it except for, then back to the road. I said, we just gotta find that person who, that's not gonna be objectionable to them, but we did, she did put some music on, and the next people that came and bought the house. I'm not saying be, dishonest or deceitful, but, I didn't think that that was anything. I mean, I play music in my
I
own
think
house
it's a
all the
common
time.
fix, my husband always said that humming ballast in a fluorescent fixture.
Uh-huh.
Oh honey, I can fix that, you want to turn the radio on. No
Turn
problem.
my hearing aid
He's
down.
an electrical engineer.
Oh my gosh.
It wasn't a good fit.
Oh, goodness. Okay. All right, so what else about feedback? Anything else you wanted to talk about? So yeah, we have to read between the lines on the feedback, okay? An experienced agent's gonna know that and be able to tell you, this is what they're saying. This is what they're not saying. You have to read between the lines, okay? So, very vague feedback, there's probably something that they're not wanting to, for example, that house in Chesterfield I talked about. It was overpriced. We agreed on a price, I knew it was gonna be too high, we were getting very vague feedback. Why don't the people just make an offer, okay? This isn't, day 1, 2, 3, we're having these discussions because we're having a lot of people come see the house. No offers yet. I said, they're rejecting it because of the price. You're helping sell other people's homes. We need to have a swift and decisive price adjustment, okay? And not become a stale listing, okay? Once we reduced the price, then we started getting very specific feedback, okay? And they're like, oh my gosh, what the heck? Now we're being told, the bedrooms are too small. I'm like, that's perfect. I said, because now we know that we're in the right range. They're lining up your property with other properties. So they're really analyzing which is gonna be the best homes. I said, this is actually a positive thing that we're now getting specific negative feedback. And you know what? We can't change anything about the bedroom sizes. So don't worry about it, okay? Alright, mistake number 8.
Yeah.
Not hiring the right real estate agent. So we talked about it's important to hire a full-time professional realtor. Everybody knows, they say on average like 10 realtors, okay? Tons of people have had their real estate license. Anybody in the room had their real estate license before? Besides you. Well, I'm kind of shocked actually, okay? So it's fairly easy to get your real estate license, okay? Very honest about that. It's not very easy to be successful in it, and it's not very easy to have longevity in the business. So you wanna hire somebody who's experienced in this full-time. It's their career. It's not their side gig. It's not their part-time thing, because there's gonna be times that you're going to want to be able to talk to your agent, and you don't wanna have to say, well, I only work, after 5 o'clock because I have my regular job that I'm working, okay? Hiring a family member, that's another thing. Sometimes, they think that, and that's perfectly understandable and okay. Dealing with family can be one of the more difficult things because you have a lot more emotions involved in it. So just keep that in mind, okay? A lot of times if you do have a family member that you think's feeling is gonna get hurt, it's gonna cause problems in the family, talk to the agent you wanna hire. They can probably talk to that agent and work out an arrangement with them that they would love, which is like maybe paying them a referral fee even though they haven't referred them. And then your family member isn't in your business and, involved in it and can't cause hard feelings when you sit down at Thanksgiving, and have to share a meal with that person, okay? A realtor should provide answers to your questions and options and solutions to your specific situation and your goals. You should not feel pressured into anything. If you start to feel pressured, then it's probably not the right agent. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like to feel pressured about anything, okay? And we call that commission breath, okay? And if somebody's pressuring you, it's probably because they really need that paycheck, okay? Not a good situation if that's who you want representing you in the biggest investment that we typically deal with in our lives. So what are some questions a good realtor you would ask in order to give you the best advice? So the questions a realtor should be asking is, what's your goal? What's the end goal? Because the end goal isn't the same for everyone, okay? It's not always about getting the most amount of money. It could be, you know, doing this selling as is, or it could be you need money, you need to get out of it quickly, okay? I hope that doesn't happen to any of you, but, you know, we all know of people that have gotten themselves in financial distress and needed to do something quickly. So you need to be honest with your agent, but the agent needs to ask you these questions. If they're not asking the questions, they don't know how to best serve you, okay? And how to best advise you, and how to best negotiate for you. They should ask, what's your timeline, okay? We don't want you to be homeless, all right? We want you to consider what your next move is before selling your home. If you're looking to move into maybe a senior community, they have 5-year waiting lists, okay? So, right sizing or downsizing, there's few properties on the market that fit into that category. So a lot of times when I'm talking to clients and say, you know, what are you thinking? What are you trying to accomplish here? Where are you going? What's your plan? It may not be sell the house first. It may be if they can financially handle it, we buy something else, or we wait till that senior community that you're on the waiting list comes up. I've got clients that I've had a relationship for, you know, 4 or 5 years. They're on waiting lists. They're waiting. We've talked, we've met. They said, you're my gal. And I'm like, great, I'll be here when you're ready. You know, let me know anything you need. Let's keep in touch. And that's perfectly fine, okay? They are in a position that, you know, they know where they're going. They're just waiting for it to become available. They're comfortable in their home. There's no reason to put it on the market right now. So, you know, asking all of those questions I think is really important, because we can advise you maybe something different, how we can structure it based on what your timeline and what your needs are. Financial questions. These aren't to be nosy, but understand what you can purchase and when before you sell your home. And not that we have to know how much money you have in your bank account, but we need to be able to advise you about if you're purchasing something else, getting a loan. You know, what does that look like for people on fixed incomes, okay? Getting a home equity line of credit, okay? Maybe your house is paid off, you wanna go to a smaller, more manageable property, but you don't have a down payment on hand in cash in the bank. Home equity line of credit, you have equity in your current home. You can't get a home equity line of credit if your house is on the market. So in that scenario, step number 1, let's get that home equity line of credit opened up and established so that you have options to buy what you want and move when the right one comes available. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. Resources and referrals. A good realtor is gonna have, be able to have resources on hand, and those of us that specialize in working with seniors, You know, we have recommendations for those estate sale companies, for movers, for organizers, packers, space planning, helping make all those decisions to make, your life as simple and as seamless as possible. Also in marketing your home, so they need to have a good marketing plan, for your home. Professional photography, if your home is on a large lot or a private lot, do they offer drone photography, okay? You know, where are they going to ask for samples of their other work? I was telling Joelle, I walked through a property the other day to look at, by myself, because I'm listing this house over here. This is on the market, it's a very similar home, I wanna see what our competition is, okay? And I offered to take the owners, but they opted not to go, so. I went and looked at the house. It was actually, had all been remodeled, okay? Beautiful. I looked at it online and I'm like, this is really weird. The pictures, I can tell the house has been staged. It was vacant. They had paid for a staging company to come in and put furniture, put accessories, okay? Very nicely done. The pictures were not professional pictures. So the pictures in essence were crappy that the agent did with their own phone, okay? So here we have a beautiful product, professionally staged, and yet the agent isn't paying the extra to present it. And what do most people look at when they're evaluating what homes to look at? Pictures. Pictures. I'm like, what a huge disservice. So, I mean, I walked in and I'm like, this house is so much better than what is presented. You know, had they gone and paid the extra money, I mean, I wouldn't be looking at the house. It would still be on the market, okay? So knowing what your agent will provide and how they're gonna market it. We use a lot of technology now. We're doing electronic signing. You know, we do email, we do text messaging. You as a client, I mean, my mom is like, before she didn't want anything to do with any of that, okay? I'm retired, I'm done with that, I don't wanna be bothered with it. Okay, so she's finding out that it would just be easier in her life if she would embrace the technology just a little bit, okay? She doesn't have to, okay? As in hiring an agent, your agent should be willing to accommodate what your needs are, okay? So if you're not technologically savvy, if it means the old fashioned, let me run to your house and get your signature on this, you know, those are all things you're gonna wanna know and ask your agent about that, okay? Or to do a trial run with you in doing this, you know, the app for scheduling appointments. How do you do that? And signing documents, going through a dry run of that. So, all good questions to ask your realtor. St. Charles County, your agent should be able to give you a timeline, average days on market, expectation of how long your property is going to be on the market. Right now, St. Charles County, average days on market is 14 days.
14.
Yes, now, most 14 days on the market means from when it's an active listing, okay, in the MLS, the database that we as agents use, so that clock starts when you're in the MLS. So 14 would be, there's an accepted offer on day 14. That's 14 days on the market. The contract that's accepted is the one that says when it's actually gonna close. Most buyers are looking to close in 30 to 45 days, okay? And a realtor should be willing to talk with your family members, anybody that you feel needs to be involved in the process. Okay?
Mistake number 9, inadequate documentation. So This is referring to mostly legal documentation such as power of attorney, trust docs, guardianship, divorce decrees, mortgage payoffs, tax bills, death certificates, things like that. And in our October seminar, actually, we're gonna be having an attorney at law come and talk to us about estate plans and making sure, if you want your home in a trust, that is in a trust. All owners of the property have been contacted and signatures have been obtained for the sale of the property. We were talking about one specific scenario that recently happened. We had some sellers in Bridgeton that were selling their home, and they said, our home is in a trust and our kids are the trustees, so we need to involve them. So we went out to their house, we wrote up all the paperwork, the parents signed it, the kids signed it, it went on the market, it went under contract. Come to find out, the house was not in the trust. They thought it was.
They had set up a trust, but never put the house in the trust. We had to redo everything.
Yes.
Which was okay, but it would have been better to know that going into it.
Right, so it would have saved, everyone a lot of time and frustration, if they had known that ahead of time. And then a municipal inspection, do you wanna touch on that?
Yeah, so real quick, municipal inspections, if all of you are in St. Charles County, the good news as a seller is we don't have any out here. Yay, okay? There will come a time that there will be, okay? And in certain specific areas, there might be a fire safety inspection, something like that. So, most of St. Louis County, we have 91 different municipalities in St. Louis County. So you're either unincorporated or you're in a municipality. If you're in a municipality, you're typically required to have, as a seller, an occupancy inspection performed. Buyers cannot move into the home until there's clear occupancy. So I educate anytime I'm talking to a seller that's in an area that requires any type of municipal inspection. Get the inspection done ahead of time, okay? There are, the person that is probably gonna be buying your house is gonna be looking to actually put the family in the home, okay? They wanna be able to move in right away. They don't want to have to jump through the hoops to get repairs done that are needed for them to get clear occupancy to move into the home. And they've gotten pretty smart, the different municipalities, about letting you enroll your kids in school and things, and utilities and things of that nature. So there are safety measures put in place to make sure the specific municipality gets their inspection money and fines.
So that inspection is that the house is habitable, is that what the inspection is? Or-
Each municipality has their own laundry list, but in general, the municipalities are looking for safety issues, okay? Different municipalities are known to be more like, the house is in what? Oh no, they want every crack in the concrete on the driveway sealed. So different municipalities have their own kind of quirkiness. But in general, they're looking for safety items. They're looking to make sure that the electrical outlets and your water sources have been upgraded to GFCIs. There's smoke alarms in every bedroom, one in main living areas, on every floor of the home, things of that nature. But they also will, if they find leaking plumbing, if they find broken windows, cracks in the concrete is even one of them. I've had, Bridgeton does, exteriors only. Okay, they're extremely particular about the exteriors, okay, which is weird, why do you do the exterior? So they'll tell you, paint the shed or get rid of it. You gotta replace the concrete on the driveway or you have to have it mud jacked. Those are things we don't wanna find out when you're already under contract, that you can't pass clear occupancy when you're contractually obligated. Now you're having to sink money into the home. Would have been better to at least know what needs to be done And if you're going to do it, and we can mark it out there that your property has passed, it has a clear inspection. So a buyer knows they can move right in when they close on a home. Yes, sir.
But if you're selling as is,
Uh-huh.
then you wouldn't need to worry about all this.
It needs to be talked about, okay?
That's-
A lot of people, with our market being as strong as it is for a seller, by putting every home that I've listed, practically for the last 2 years, I put on there that the seller prefers to sell it as is for their convenience. I mean, yeah, why not, okay? But getting that occupancy is key, okay? So, most of the homes that I'm selling, they are accepting to take it as is, but I tell the seller we wanna get that occupancy done up front and see if it passes, and if it passes, a lot of times the buyer will say, I don't need an independent inspection done. If the city says the house is past their inspection, that's good enough. And that's great for you as the seller, actually. Yes, sir.
When, in those areas where you need a municipal
Uh-huh.
inspection,
Uh-huh.
wouldn't your, if you paid for a private inspection,
Mm-hmm.
either the buyer or the seller paid for a private inspection, wouldn't they be looking for those same things? I mean, wouldn't they be knowledgeable enough to know that, hey, the city's gonna fault us on this, I
Okay.
better put it on my inspection, or do those get missed?
Um,
Do you get surprises when you've already had
Yeah,
private
because
inspection done? and
yes.
Then you get a city inspection, and you get surprises.
Yes, you can get surprises, okay, because the independent inspector might say, the stack is kind of old and rusty and it's got barnacles on it, but I don't see any water leaking out of it. You're probably gonna need to replace it in the next couple of years. The city might come in and go, no way, you gotta replace this plumbing
See,
stack.
I would fault the original inspection for that. I would expect them to know what items the city is gonna identify. I would
Mhm.
expect that inspector in that area that I paid, I would
Mhm.
expect them
Mhm.
to know what the city's gonna call.
Mhm.
I mean,
But every municipality is so different.
well, I know, but I'm sure there's
Yeah.
a list of things.
Yeah.
Obviously.
There is.
It's gotta be in writing, they gotta have some kind of.
Most
a
of them
list
do,
that they
and
expect from.
that's what, again, when your agent, when you're in one of those areas, the agent needs to advise you up front. What are the requirements in selling the home? Is there a municipal inspection? Is there a fire inspection? Get the list, know what it is. You don't have to do everything yet, you need to know. We don't wanna get hit up with something very costly like a plumbing stack or a new electric panel. So, I say, get it done, even if you're not going to do that and we're going to sell it with that defect. But if you are gonna do it, let's get it done, and then we can say, it's got a brand new blah, 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 and it's past its occupancy.
That's gonna come up in your next issue here, right?
Which would be
In
what?
mistake number 10.
Yeah, number 10.
Failing to disclose.
Oh my goodness, that'll be a long list.
Okay, it's pretty simple. This is the seller's disclosure, okay? It's double-sided. These are all here's a City of St. Charles, so, not part of that. But this is what you should be filling out when you list your home for sale. This gets bigger every year, and they revise it, okay? There's several questions on here that a lot of homeowners really don't know. One of them being, do you have a municipal inspection that you're required to get, okay? When in doubt, you should disclose, okay?
What's an example of some of the questions?
Yeah. So one of the questions on here is, what is the approximate age of the roof? Is it documented? Has it ever leaked? Are you aware of any problems with the gutters, downspouts, asphalt foundation? Okay, it covers pretty much everything in home, okay? Keep your documentation on repairs and things that you do to the home, okay? okay? Very important, when you go to list the home, an experienced realtor is gonna ask for more information than what's on this, because this does not ask anything about your heating and cooling system, okay? So, we wanna know, we wanna be able to know if it's new, if there's a warranty, and we wanna be able, if so, we wanna be able to market it, okay? So, this is something, I personally meet with sellers. I like to meet face to face when we go through this, because there are questions that people don't know the answers. They're like, what does that mean? What's a recorded street maintenance, agreement? What is a, are you aware of any existing indentures or restrictive covenants? Probably
Always.
I always say no. It's the rules for your subdivision, okay? Most of us have some rules in the subdivision. If you're in an older one or you're rural, then probably not. But most of the time I'm like, oh no, don't you pay $300 a year for subdivision fees? Oh yeah. Do they have rules? Can you put up sheds? Can you put up fences? Yeah, we have those. That's what it's asking for.
Where do you get that?
We, as licensed agents that belong to the Realtor Board, we have access to these forms that we give you to fill out, okay? I'm going to pick one up from a seller, the lady that we are having an estate sale at her home. This takes time, okay? I ended up having to leave it with her, and I said, don't answer any questions you have questions about. I'm gonna come back and we're gonna sit down and go through it. People miss answering things all the time. If I'm representing a buyer and I see a question not answered, I'm gonna assume probably that sellers maybe purposely didn't answer it, okay? We want everything answered. We don't want any questions. You want to be, when you have had a leak in your roof or your basement, it's not the end of the world. There's a lot of moving parts on a home. If you've owned a home for any length of time, you know, more than a couple months, you've probably had something come up on the home that you need to put on here. And this doesn't always just apply to your home ownership. So if you know that the people you bought it from, was an animal hoarder, I had that situation. I had clients buy a house that there was an animal previously owned to an animal hoarder. You're gonna need to disclose that going forward when you sell the home, okay? There wasn't any evidence of it, but when you read the instructions, it says those are the kind of things that you need to disclose if you know. When I see a seller's disclosure and I see people who've owned a home for 10 years, 20, 30,
46.
46,
60?
60, I expect there to be some stuff written on here. Yes, we have had this
6
happen,
pages.
But we fixed it.
but this is what we've done about it, okay? So this protects you. You wanna be honest. So the rule of thumb is when people say, should I disclose that? Yeah, if you're sitting there thinking, should it, then you should, you know? It's gonna look weird if you don't have anything. You go, okay, I owned this home for 30 years and I've never had any problems. What? I don't think so. So, as an agent, they can tell you what would make it, what is the buyer looking for? What is the information? If I have to answer yes, my basement leaked, okay. Does it leak all the time? Has it leaked for 20 years? What are the circumstances? Well, you know, I've never had a leak except for 2 times. And one was 3 weeks ago when we had, you know, record rain. Okay, all right, fair enough. Okay, so we want to disclose that. Where did it come in at? Well, it just came in this one corner. Okay, well, what corner? Okay, it's the southeast corner. Okay, how much water was it? Did you have, because a buyer's gonna interpret, you get water in your basement, you know, this, okay? And it's not that. What was it? How much was it? You know, what did you have to do to remedy it? Well, we found that a downspout was disconnected. So water was running right along the house. Perfectly logical explanation. Did you fix it? Did you correct it? Yeah, we did. Okay. And was it a trickle of water or was it 6 feet of water? Was it a puddle? How can we quantify how much water? Okay. Because again, buyers think this. Okay. Well, it actually, there was, you know, it ran right down to the drain, and, you know, it was just a trickle. I would call it a trickle. Okay, you call it a trickle? It's a trickle. Okay, let's put it on there though. You fixed it? Yes, this is, okay. What did you do to fix it? Have you had any problems since? Nope, no problem since. Okay, let's put that on there. You've answered all the questions that are going through a buyer's mind. Okay, if you as a seller are filling this out, you need to think of, or your agent needs to say, let's explain this. Let's try to be honest and open, but let's not leave it up to their imagination that it happens every single time we get a half inch of rain and the basement floods. Now, if it's true, then you need to say the basement floods every time it rains, so, but most of the time that is not the case. So, I've been involved in one potential lawsuit. Honestly, it was the house that I bought. That I bought,
Wow.
not a client, thankfully so. Okay? The sellers failed to disclose they had a mainline water leak. Okay? That repair cost us, I think it was $18,000, and my husband did a lot of the work, okay? Because we live on 1.5 acres, and it's a long way from where it connects to the city to where it went into the house. How did we find out? Moved in, got a high water bill. Dang, we are the same 5 people in the house. Why is our water bill so high at this house versus the last house? What do? I call the city of St. Charles. Why is my water bill so high? I don't know, this is what we can do. We can send somebody out to come look at it. Am I perfect? Cause I think there's some problem going on here. They must have misread the meter. The person from the city comes knocking on the door. I'm here to blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, great, you know, what do you need to do? Come in, look at my toilets, look at whatever. And he's like, I don't need to come in. I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, I already know what your problem is. And I said, you do? And he said, you're not the same lady I talked to before. And I said, no, I've never met you before. And he said, and there's no for sale sign in the yard anymore. And I'm like, no, we just bought the house, like, you know, a month ago. And he's like, well, it's a mainline water leak. It's the same thing I told the people before what it was. And I am like, oh my gosh, I'm a realtor. Did I miss seeing that on the seller's disclosure? My husband is gonna
Yes.
go back to the seller's disclosure. I'm looking. They didn't have anything on there. So we contacted them. I tried to work it out in a friendly manner. Hey, you probably just weren't thinking, overlooked, whatever, you know, but you didn't disclose, and now we have evidence that existed and you knew about it and you didn't disclose it. So we would like for you to compensate us back for that. Then we had to get attorneys involved, at least sending letters, and then they did reimburse us for that. Now, had it been marked on there and they disclosed it, that would have been all of our expense. And it was a huge deal. So, disclose.
Underline that.
Yeah, so that's my answer and story on that one. Okay?
We had a bonus mistake.
What's our bonus mistake?
Failing to account for all expenses involved in selling a house.
Okay, alright, so just real quick, commission. When you list the home, the agent and you will discuss the agreed upon commission rate. That commission rate is split between the listing agent, their brokerage, the buyer's agent and their brokerage. So that piece of the pie, whether it's 3,000 or 10,000 or whatever, it's split 4 ways, just to let you know. And you need to account for this, okay? You need to account for, before we list the home, you know, what your goal is, what you're wanting to end up netting. Are you gonna get, luckily, most people are getting nice big checks when they're selling their homes, but there was a time when that wasn't the case. They were having to bring money to the closing table. So your realtor should be explaining all of the fees involved in selling a home. Commission being the biggest one, okay? And it's not about how much they charge, it's about how much you keep, okay? Same with taxes, okay, you know, and your income. There are costs with the title company involved. They usually run about $500. We use title companies here, and you as a seller have roughly about $500 in expenses from the title company, okay? If you're in a condo or a subdivision, they've gotta order maybe condo documents or villa documents, or they have to order, if you're paying one of those annual fees to your subdivision, you're gonna have to pay for what they call a subdivision trustee letter. They wanna make sure that you've paid your dues. The title company has to make sure everybody is paid and settled at the time of closing. So if you have a mortgage that's gonna be paid off, if you have a home equity line of credit, that should be paid off. If you have a loan for HVAC system, okay, those are all things that have to be paid at the time of closing. So talk to your agent, find out what those expenses are specific to your property, and so they can give you like a seller's net sheet, what you can expect to net out of the sale of your home. Sometimes people don't do that, and then they are shocked. I didn't get as much money as I thought because I didn't know I had to pay for this or that. And so it's important to know.
Okay.
Any other points on that?
No, I don't think so. Any other questions about the mistakes we talked about or anything else seller related?
What? No questions?
You explained it so well.
Well, that's the goal, but I don't know that we actually did that.
Well, we're happy to stick around if you do.
Closing cost, approximate percentage is there?
Okay, so when you're a buyer, you pay some pretty big closing costs, okay? We usually say, as a rule of thumb, expect 3% of the purchase price to be your closing costs, okay? When you're a buyer, okay? When you're a seller, your biggest cost is gonna be the commission that is paid to the agents for their services in the sale of the home. But there are some additional costs, so $500 is kind of my title company and whom I work with, it usually ends up being around $500, okay? So we give, that's not that. I give all that information and go over with the sellers, so you know. If you're in a villa or a condo, the buyer has the right to get all of that information, all that documentation. We're seeing fees as high as $1,000 for that documentation that your association, like your villa association or condo association, you know, it starts adding up, so you need to know about these things. So those are good questions to ask the agent about what are the other costs involved, what can I expect, let's write it down.
That's why we hire an agent, right?
Well, we hire an agent, but it needs to be a good agent, and it needs to be an agent that wants to educate you, okay? Because people don't always ask questions, where do I sign? You know, an agent might go, yeah, great, here, sign this, you know? So, that's my best advice anyway,
Yeah.
so, Any other questions?
The, settlement fee, the fee that chart right up there, is that variable, is that negotiable?
Yeah.
And what range are we talking about?
Well, per the Missouri Real Estate Commission, I cannot discuss that, okay? Because brokerage can charge whatever they want to,
Okay.
okay?
So then should I shop for a brokerage?
Huh?
So should I shop for a brokerage, is that,
You can,
okay?
however, have you ever been in situations that you went on the cheap and you didn't end up with getting the best?
I'm with, yeah.
Okay, alright, so keep that in mind, okay? Yes, it can be negotiable, okay? It is what it comes to agreement. Some brokerages, the agent, they tell their agent, we charge this. Everybody gets charged this. There's no flexibility or negotiation in it, okay? Also, the listing agent decides how much they're gonna pay to the buyer's agent. So if you list a home and you wanna pay out lower than the average, what is that, what do you think, how appealing your house is gonna be to somebody who makes their living off the commission? May not be as attractive, right? Okay, so that's another thing. It's actually on the listing agreement contract as to how much is gonna be paid out to the other agent. Another good question to ask about, cause they may say, here's what happens, you try to negotiate a commission, and somebody says, you know, yeah, I agree, I'll sell your home for, you know, some low rate, let's just say 4%, okay? It would be really low in our market, so let's just say, let's use that number, 4%. Okay, they're only gonna pay out 0.5% to the buyer's agent. I mean, that is nothing in our market. That would be unbelievably no and a huge turnoff for other agents. So,
So it's not automatically 50-50 cut?
no,
Okay.
and it goes on the contract. Okay, so in our market, the standard split, although this is written like, you know, it's all even Steven, okay? In actuality, it's not. Ours is 55-45. 55% typically is going to go to the listing broker side, 45% goes to the buyer's brokerage side.
So if you negotiated the total percentage down, the selling agent takes the hit?
Or may not, or, well, I mean, depending on what your
I mean,
house.
the listing agent, the
The
buyer's.
buyers.
Buyer's agent.
Yeah,
That's what I meant.
So
Yeah,
market
that's
value
what I'm
is
saying.
very valid.
yeah,
Takes the hit.
absolutely, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, alright, any other questions?
Sounds such a pretty piece of pie then.
It's not,
No.
it's not, and we have to pay, we're self-employed. We pay all of our own taxes,
Yeah.
we pay our own insurance, no retirement benefits. It's totally on us, so.
But it's the fun of helping all us.
It is, it really is, and you know what, honestly, so, that's why I said I talked about commission breath. Agents that are good at what they do and have the longevity, it becomes about helping people, and it comes about feeling good about what we're doing and helping others get to what their goal is. So not being about the paycheck, okay?
Still gotta eat.
You still gotta eat though,
That's right.
baby needs a new pair of shoes.
Yeah, need a roof over your head.
All of that stuff, so
Oh,
you know,
God.
we expect to be paid for our services, yeah, but it's not all in a level equal playing field on the services that you get, so ask questions, be aware, interview.
Order.
Mhm.
Where do you start? First you said find where you're going.
I
Her
would,
would be the best.
I would say it depends, okay? My best, clearest answer to that is, if you are considering, or you even think, I'm gonna need to move, it's not immediate, but I'm going to call a realtor and talk to them, have them in, okay? Talk about your situation, and, I mean, I've got, Pat, that we're doing an estate sale, it's been over 5 years I've been talking with her. I have another client that, I'm meeting with the family Friday. We talked so long, unfortunately, he passed away before he sold his house. I mean, he was literally, we've been talking that long, and I didn't pressure him to sell his house, okay? Because it worked for him. He didn't need to make a move. He just wanted information. And I was there to answer that, and we kept in contact. And he kept saying, when I come up on that waiting list out at, he was going to, he kept changing different places, You're my gal, I'll be calling you, you'll sell my house. Great, John, love to help you, looking forward to it, hope you're enjoying your home and it's working well for you. Unfortunately, he got on the ladder and fell and kind of declined on that, but, so we were getting ready to have that appointment to meet with family, meet with him. He was decided where he was gonna go to, cause he was using a walker, and darn if he didn't get sick the day of our meeting, went in the hospital, family called and passed away. But he had a very nice home, he had a nice long life, and, he was healthy for the majority of the time of it, so now the family's calling me in, we know you've been working with our dad, that we were supposed to meet, he said, you're the agent that he wanted to use, so let's move ahead with that. So, that's what we did.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming today. These are our next 2 seminars, the latest scams in staying safe, and then October 19th, estate plans and avoiding probate, and we'll have Raymond Chandler, a friend of ours, come and speak at that one, so we're excited for you guys to come back again. Bring a friend.